Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Teachers Retirement Board meeting. We actually called our meeting to order at 9 o'clock and went into closed session. We have already taken attendance and passed our agenda, so we're going to continue right on. I just want to thank everyone for making the time to be here today. We really appreciate you, and we appreciate you being a part of our work. As we start today's meeting, I would like to reflect on the member video that we showed yesterday at the beginning of the investment committee. If you missed it, you can catch it online. I, myself, and my colleagues here on the dais find these profiles very helpful and grounding as we focus on the purpose of our work here today. And it also reminds us this is the time of year when those members who have decided to retire turn to CalSTRS to begin the process. I'm told that the first member we profiled in our very first video, Lance Gunnarsson, I've actually happened to work with Lance for a very long time. He's been one of our CTA liaisons, is retiring this coming week. I don't know if I can do this part.
We got you.
Also retiring is Leonard Goldberg. He... If you don't know Leonard, he is a long-serving representative to CalSTRS on behalf of CTA and United Teachers Los Angeles, and he is here with us today. Leonard, I personally appreciate your passion and dedication to promoting and defending the CalSTRS pension that our members rely on, and I congratulate you on 38 years of service to our students. I hope that you and Lance and the many educators who are taking this pivotal step right now find true joy in fulfilling your retirement dreams. Okay, on to today. May is always one of our larger board meetings because it centers on the actuarial valuations. We've all learned to love our actuaries, as hard as it was to learn all this stuff. Our decisions all flow from their work. A number of the items on today's agenda are dedicated to this, and we'll hear from our Chief Actuary, David Lamoureux, on this year's figures. We're also going to hear from our CEO about our board staff working group on AI. But before that, we're going to start with a report from our Chief Executive Officer, Cassandra Licknock, on our current activities, and very exciting, she will introduce our 26-27 staff virtuosos. This is the highest award given to staff. Not only is it inspiring to hear their stories, the accomplishments of these exceptional employees showcase how we promote and live by our values at CalSTRS. After that, we will hear from our Chief Benefits Officer, Jeff Zimmer, about the implementation of Benefit Connect, our new pension administration system. With that, we will start on item number 10. Cassandra.
Right, thank you, Madam Chair. I think Jenny, our General Counsel,
Oh, I forgot to have you read the statement.
No
Sorry,
worries.
Jenny.
Open it up.
The CalSTRS board meetings are live web streamed, video archived, and available to the public on calstrs.com. Individuals who wish to address the board should wait for the 10-minute public comment period at the end of the agenda item the speaker wishes to address. For comments not pertaining to a specific agenda item, there will be an opportunity for additional statements at the end of the open session. Each speaker is allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to comment. However, if there is not enough time for each speaker to have 3 minutes, the timing will be at the discretion of the chair. Please be advised, while criticism is protected, abusive language or other disruptive behavior that goes beyond protected speech and impedes the meeting's progress may result in the termination of further comment and/or removal if the behavior continues. To protect the privacy of speakers under the age of 18 who wish to address the board, only their first name and affiliated organization may be provided, but other personal identifying information such as their last name, age, or school may not be shared. Since the March Teachers Retirement Board meeting, CalSTRS has received 34 emails from members regarding the new My CalSTRS portal and wait times, 11 emails from members related to processing time delays for receiving death benefits, refunds, purchasing service credit, direct deposit issues, and updating beneficiaries. 1 email concerned with the upcoming reduction to the post-retirement earnings limit as prescribed under SB 765 from 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is one of my favorite times of the year, as you mentioned, Ms. Bradford, about the introduction of our Virtuoso Award recipients. The Virtuoso Award represents the highest honor at CalSTRS. CalSTRS employees can receive, reserved for individuals who deliver exceptional, sustained performance and embody our core values. Each nomination undergoes a rigorous review by a diverse 15-member recognition council that evaluates excellence across the organization. Today, we recognize 18 remarkable individuals whose leadership, dedication, and impact exemplify the best of CalSTRS. I'm going to read their names off and tell you where they work and a brief description of what they do. I'm going to have them stand when I read their name. Please hold your applause until the very end, because otherwise this may take longer than what we have planned. But we do want to make sure that we recognize them. So please stay standing once I read your name so we can all recognize you. The first is Alvin Singh from Technology Services. Alvin ensures every employee has secure, reliable, and expertly supported technology that keeps CalSTRS running smoothly. Elisa Svirgan from Benefits and Services. Elisa maintains and improves the resources customer service relies on, ensuring accurate information and strong member support. Carmen Smith from Public Affairs. Carmen produces high-quality video and digital content that elevates investments communications and strengthens audience engagement. Chase Williams from Benefits and Services. Chase delivers engaging training and mentoring that builds strong performance across customer service division. Cheyenne Ledbetter from Administrative Services. Cheyenne designs and delivers effective training programs that strengthen skills and support organizational development. Julio Perez, Administrative Services. Julio leads procurement operations that ensure CalSTRS acquires the goods, services, and technologies needed to operate efficiently. Katrina Gatchich from Benefits and Services. Katrina oversees all employer services training and ensures it aligns with law, policy, and reporting requirements. Christy Sena, Benefits and Services. Christy provides accurate, personalized retirement planning and outreach that empowers members to make informed decisions. Megan Wallach, Benefits and Services. Megan leads training, quality, and operational improvements that advance statewide reporting and strengthen employer services. Nicole Weibel, Benefits and Services. Nicole develops educational content and delivers member training that enhances understanding of CalSTRS benefits. Pritpal Baines, Financial Services. Pritpal leads CalSTRS financial planning and budget development, ensuring strong fiscal management and transparent reporting. Rebecca Machado de Quevedo, Public Affairs. Rebecca drives communications strategy for Benefit Connect, delivering clear, coordinated messaging across major initiatives. Rosemary Chanu, Benefits and Services. Rosemary leads complex pension solution work guiding design, testing, and staff preparation for new systems and processes. Salvador Recinos, Benefits and Services. Salvador oversees systems development for disability and survivor benefits, improving tools, accuracy, and service delivery. San Juanita Ledesma, Administrative Services. San Juanita creates engaging training and e-learning content that supports organizational learning and workforce development. Scott Brooks, former General Counsel's Office. Scott provides expert legal guidance to the investments branch, ensuring compliance and supporting complex investment activities. Sonia Follett, Administrative Services. Sonia led the Pension Solution Project's training strategy, delivering high-quality courses that ensured a smooth system transition. And finally, Stephanie Bullock, Benefits and Services. Stephanie leads retirement processing, operations, and strengthens quality controls that ensure accuracy, efficiency, and compliance. So please congratulate our award recipients. All right, well, thank you for that. Keep up the good work. Congratulations.
I think we might have public comment. Is there public comment on number 10?
There is public comment for item 10. If we could get a 3-minute timer, please.
We weren't, there's still
sorry.
more.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I had a couple more items, if that's okay. One, I was just going to briefly introduce the technology budget that had been a request from the last meeting. There has been a preparation of a summary of our technology budget within my CEO report, so I just draw your attention to that. That hopefully answers some of the questions and gives you some succinct visibility of the technology budget. The technology and innovation budget for 25-26 is $184 million, covering 265 positions. Resources are focused on member services, business operations, investment management, and security and risk. And the budget distinguishes between daily operations identified as run and modernization modernization of investments, which is transform. And so there's staff in attendance if you had any questions, or you can always follow up with us on the information that's provided. But it's to kind of give visibility to all the work that we're doing internally in a holistic perspective. And then lastly, Jeff Zimmer, our Chief Benefits Officer, wanted to provide a brief update on the stabilization of Benefit Connect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Please, Jeff, tell us.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Cassandra. Good morning, member of the board. I will be brief. So I wanted to start with the contact center because that's often where we see the most amount of member frustration and beneficiary frustration with reaching us. So what's happened in the contact center recently in the last about 3 months is that we have answered more calls per month. That's good. Our call wait time has decreased. To be totally honest, it's gone from really not great to not great, but it has gotten better. We have answered more calls faster than we have before. One of the big things is we identified the CalSTRS number for callbacks. So if you call CalSTRS and you say, I don't want to wait in the queue, I want you to call me back. Previously, it would come up with a 916 number that was not familiar to people, and it may go right to voicemail, and they would not pick up the phone, and then it would call us back again and say, I would like to have another call back. And we had 26% of our calls were return calls. So since we identified the 1-800 number, now it says our 1-800 number on it, that has gone down to 14%. So almost half the amount of return calls that we're getting. And we're adding additional branding to those calls to make it more clear that it's CalSTRS calling back. So we can hopefully have someone pick up, not have to wait in the queue and get that call and actually resolve the problem, then reducing the amount of callbacks. That's been a big improvement. We've increased staff. So we've added staff to the contact center. It's capacity. We have more people to handle more calls. So to that tune, I used the increasing calls in March. We answered 3,800 more, 2,600 more in April. More than what? I compared that to January was kind of our nadir in terms of getting to calls, so it has improved. And now early forecast for May is actually lower than that, but that's a good thing because we're just getting fewer calls. So that's good. So the abandoned call rate, the people that were calling us, members who wanted to talk to us, said, I don't have time for this, and they would hang up. That abandoned call rate has decreased, but it's still too high. So we want to make sure we get to more calls, and we are doing that through adding people and fixing some of the problems that are driving the calls in the first place. So that's kind of two ends of the story. Let's get more people, and let's stop the problems that are causing the calls. I wanted to highlight two workloads, and obviously I don't have time to go through everything that everyone is doing and every team is working on. There are multiple teams across the organization, financial services, community property, benefits and services, working really hard to recover service, to get through these backlogs, to get used to the new system. Tons of work being done. I want to highlight two. One is survivor benefits. So these are payments made to a beneficiary of a member who has passed away. And I highlight this one because it's one of our more complicated and sensitive benefit payments. There's a lot that goes on before we can pay a payment. And I wanted to highlight the increase that we've had from February to April. So it's increasing month over month. In May, early returns on May is that it's more than 2,000 payments issued in May. So this has been increasing. Better visibility in the workload, better ability to look at the oldest cases first and find someone we need to pay most quickly. So there's been a lot of effort in this area to work on this backlog and get these payments out for all the reasons that I said, sensitive payments, and we want to make them timely. Madam Chair, you teed this up very nicely for me. So peak retirement season is upon us, and this is our highest priority for everything that you mentioned. It is why we're here. So we have prioritized fixes to make sure everything is working well with peak retirement season. And you can see we are trending upwards as you would expect. This isn't necessarily the system getting better or us getting better with the system. This is just natural volume. So May looks a lot like April, and then June and July is when the floodgates open, when we have the most amount of applications per year. That's seasonal, it happens every time. And we are paying these benefits timely. So we have goals to pay these benefits within the benefit effective date when they request the benefit. In April, it was 96%. May is looking like 98%. We're going to meet our goal. So that's very good. And it comes from a lot of concerted effort across the organization to prioritize this work. And just since I'm here because I'm talking about service retirement season, it's looking a lot like last year in terms of the number of teachers that are retiring. So it's early yet. We don't have all the numbers because June and July are very big. So it could be a lot more. But right now it's trending like last year. Just kind of throwing that out there because people like to ask, what's it look like? More people, less people? About the same. I wanted to show this one. This data is a little bit noisy because it compares or it shows people that have emailed us through my CalSTRS with a question, people that have visited, a member interaction with retirement readiness. Could be a benefits planning session, could be a front desk visit, could be a group workshop, and then the amount of calls is on the very top. So I guarantee you there are people that have emailed us, gone to a front desk at a member service center, and called us. So it's a little bit noisy, but I just wanted to show the volume of people that we are getting to. So when we're talking about our members, we are increasing every month and we are reaching tens of thousands of people and we're having those interactions and we're having the communication, the conversations to solve their problems. And you can kind of see what we did from February to March in terms of getting people into the contact center and having process efficiency. We raised the ceiling and then we hit it. So now we have to work on how do we raise it again so we can continue getting more capacity to handle these interactions to make sure we get to our members and their beneficiaries. I wanted to go back real quick and say in June, we have more contact center people starting in June, and there is another wave in July, and we are continuing to hire even behind those. So if we can get them into a new employee training opportunity, we can fill those up as fast as possible to get people onto the phones as quickly as we can. So there are more people coming in June and July that will help with some of these issues with the call volume and answering more calls. Finally, we are, of course, prioritizing system fixes to make sure that we're doing the things that are, for example, most impactful to service retirement season. Let's make sure those are getting fixed quickly. If we hear something from a member in the contact center saying, I'm having trouble with this step of the application, we note that down and we make sure we get it to our partners in technology services and the vendor to say, hey, we may have a new problem here. We want to knock this down as soon as possible so that it doesn't affect more people. So there's good communication across the business about, hey, we're noticing something. Let's get this fixed. So that's really important. The customer experience is improving. I'm not going to say it's back to where it was because it's not. There are still challenges. It feels like we're running with a weighted vest. It's just things are a little bit harder than they used to be. And sometimes I think they're harder than they have to be. But we are getting through this and people are really, the engagement of people is incredible. The amount of effort that goes into this, people being invested in making things better than working through all of these things. It's a huge reason why we're doing as well as we are, and it's the reason why we're going to get out of this, is how everyone is committed to making this better. But I have to acknowledge the fatigue and the strain that it's taking on people that are handling this. It's 99% occupancy in the contact center, which means you take a call, you hang up, you take a call, you hang up, you take a call. It's like that every day, and that wears on people. And it wears on people working in the other areas about, hey, I've got to get through this number of cases today to make a dent in this backlog. And so people are feeling that, but they're working well together. And again, it's the reason we're going to get out of this. And we're committed to appropriate resourcing. So I talked about the contact center because that's often where we see the most friction for people, but there's also additional staffing amongst the business areas that are working in Benefit Connect to get processes done, to get applications completed. So there's other resourcing that we're doing to ensure that there's adequate people in all these different areas. And the last bullet is just about, when we talk about stabilization, it feels like right now is when we're going to stabilize. It's been months since we went live, and it was a lot of, figuring things out and fighting through some challenges. And now it's like, okay, there's enough knockdown that was in our way that we can really get to this work and start stabilizing now. We can really get to this and start learning the system, getting through things faster, and we'll really start stabilizing. That's what it feels like where we are right now, just as a temperature check. So that's what I wanted to provide to you this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about this or anything else related to Benefit Connect.
Okay, we have a couple questions. Sharon?
Of course.
Thanks. And thanks, Jeff, for the update. And I know to all the staff out there answering those calls, we know it's been rough and And then obviously, we hear from members because a lot of us are
Yes.
in districts. And so a couple of questions, because the system was implemented in October, right? Am I thinking this right?
September
September, sorry,
23rd.
September.
Yes.
It's the end of May now. And so I'm not trying to beat a dead horse,
Nope.
but just to say, in general, that's 7+ months. And so good to hear you talk about, I'm kind of one of those like, don't overpromise and underdeliver kind of that. And so I'm glad to hear that we're trying to beef things up so that we can really address the issue versus just kind of hope it'll. But one of the questions on one of the slides you showed was just like the volume of phone calls versus other ways we contact.
Sure.
So like we're lucky in Los Angeles because I can just tell members, go to Glendale. Like you can't get through, just get in your car, which not everyone can do, but most people can. How are we communicating out? Because I'm guessing some of the people that aren't calling us right now have just been frustrated and kind of give up for a while. Are we pushing out messaging to all members saying, hey, we recognize there have been issues. Here are different ways you can access CalSTRS. Thank you for your patience. Because so much of our culture is trust, right?
Yes.
And that when you call us, we're there for you.
Absolutely.
Right now, we haven't always been that immediately there for you.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the communication to our members, kind of being honest and straight up about the issues, but also problem solving other ways to
Sure.
communicate.
And I'll start this answer by saying, thank you for bringing it up. I was remiss in not mentioning that I've talked about before that people have frustration contacting us, but when they get us, they still get the service they expect. So the satisfaction remains at 94% with the interaction when you speak to someone. Same with benefits planning sessions and all of that. So that's the good news, is that for all the fatigue that we're going through, it's not showing in our responses and our professionalism and the way that we interact with our membership. So that's very good. That remains high. So again, a testament to everyone working on everything. It's an interesting dilemma because what we do is we put things on CalSTRS.com. Hey, here's other ways to contact us. Here's information about what we're going through. You might want to consider this. When it was 1099 season, we would do information about 1099s. Hey, check here before you call. Do this before you ask. Just to give people information about where they can find something without having to interact with us. We have this balance between over-communicating because that can generate calls that we might not have the capacity to handle. So this is the delicate balance of when we set up, we have the relationship with our membership where they like to talk to us, to your point. They want to call us, they want to be heard, and they want to have their question answered, as we all do. It's very direct and it's very personal. So we want to make sure that we don't accidentally get more people concerned about something and then call us, just say, hey, can you explain this email I just got? When we thought the email was very clear about what it was about, but sometimes it isn't. So what we're trying to do is put as much as static information as we can at .com and put on the upfront messages of the IVR when you call, hey, about your 1099, you're only getting one this year, not two. That type of information to try and deflect some of the calls so they don't end up getting in the way of someone having a problem with their direct deposit or something that needs to be addressed immediately. So I hope that answers your question, but as you know from your long experience, the members have high expectations of communication, rightly so, and we're always trying to what's that right amount to not tip things over into, whoops, now we're getting 5,000 more calls that we didn't expect.
Yeah, and sometimes it's ways to get that need met, to your point about the personal touch, but sometimes like chatting with somebody or, like you said, I tell people to go to my CalSTRS, but I don't think people typically go to our website, sometimes they do. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think moving from phone calls to other modalities, just that's the way the world's moving too. However, we can do that because I just think the human part of that can be really challenging, and we're seeing that right now. So
Definitely.
Thank you for the report, Jeff.
Of course.
Michelle.
Kind of piggybacking actually on what Sharon was indicating, and I appreciate your very direct honesty about sort of, you don't have a crystal ball. We're not great, and we're still, not there.
Great. We will be great again.
So I appreciate that. I guess, I'm wondering is, again, to Sharon's point, we launched September, October, we're now May. As we continue to look at sort of the stabilization of what will be, I'll call it the new norm. I appreciate that we're bringing staff on. I think it's really critical that we are being responsive. You know, I think for our members, a lot of times when they need to get a hold of us, it's going to be, you know, critical for them. So I appreciate that. As we think about that, and I know you indicated, I think you said we have more staff coming on in June and July. Do you anticipate once we hit stabilization, whatever that looks like, that we will have to continue that staff level, or do you think it's going to level off? And it's hard to say. I know June and July are, you know, busy months, so we're looking at some, you know, our normal workload that rises and falls. But I guess part of it is I'm just trying to figure out, are we bringing in temp staff as a Band-Aid, or are we thinking that even at our stabilization? And then can you tell me what does that number look like? I mean, how much are we increasing percentage-wise staff to sort of accommodate this need?
Absolutely. Let me make sure, and then I'll answer, and then if I miss something, please let me know. So in terms of stabilization, I mean, I'm thinking in 3-month periods. Like, let's get through peak season, and then we're in another period of, like, we're sending out our retirement progress reports, and then before you know it, we're doing 1099s again. So there's just a seasonality to this that we're trying to get through kind of chunk by chunk. And you're right, I don't want to speculate on when stabilization ends. And one of the things is because we've been working so hard to kind of get familiar with the system and get through some of the defects that we wanted to fix, is that we haven't been able to turn on some of the really cool features that are built into the new system. So I'll use this as an example, is that there's functionality that will allow us to reach out to members that don't have a one-time death benefit recipient form on file. That we can identify them and send out a letter, say, you might want to do this. I think that would be really good. We don't want to do that right now because it could generate a lot of calls. So there are efficiencies that we're going to see once we are stabilized. So I just don't know exactly when that is going to be. But our approach has been very judicious with staffing, is that can we find limited term positions for these? Because we don't believe it's going to be permanent, but we don't know exactly how long we'll need them for. So let's be flexible with the limited term duration. And then as we gain these efficiencies, then we can find things like, okay, we don't need this manual work anymore. So that's an area we can start to wind down and then focus on what are the ongoing workloads that we're going to have with the new system. So I hope that kind of touched on what you were talking about, but it is definitely something we think about, is that, like I said, it's the two sides. We want to make sure that we have adequate capacity to do the work and receive the calls, but we want the system to work as we expect. So let's invest in both. But let's make sure the system is working how we need it to, so we won't need as many people all the time.
And Jeff, let me just add a little bit to the crux of your question, which I think you answered fine, Jeff. These are temporary positions, limited term. We don't expect them to remain in the organization in these positions for the long term, because this is a temporary issue. Now, it's great if we could develop them and they find permanent positions. If the workload expands for a necessary ongoing operational necessity that we do need positions, it will come to you through the normal budget process. This is just an emergency reaction to an emergency situation that we need to connect with our members faster through the stabilization period.
Thank you, Cassandra.
Karen.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks, Jeff.
Of course.
I have just a couple of things. I just wanted to make sure that the conversations about communications that you have been doing with our stakeholders and getting input from them and just kind of seeing what the stakeholder groups need. And so I think you've been able to do that and been able to get the input from them. So, you know, thank you, stakeholders, for making sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing for
Absolutely.
you.
I
Okay.
echo that gratitude. We really rely on our constituents to let us know what's happening with their populations that they serve.
Yes.
Because we want to know what's going on so we can maybe make changes. So yeah, we've had a really good communication with our advocates.
Good. Okay, thank you. And the next part is, you know, you talk about the stabilization and the hard work that the staff has been doing. So I just want to make sure that we recognize and just show our appreciation for the hard work, the commitment, and the value that they do bring to CalSTRS. So I just want to shout it out to everybody. Thank you very much for all your hard work.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Karen. Oh, I disappeared. There we go. Thank you, Karen. I too wanted to express my appreciation to staff and especially to you, Jeff, for answering all of our questions all of the time and so promptly. It's been really helpful. So thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Anyone else? Okay, I do not see any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And I think there's a public comment that we're going to take.
Okay, I was making sure. Did she hear? Samantha, is there any public comments?
We do have public comment. I'm going to go to the phone first. If we could get a 3-minute timer, please. Our caller is Julie. Julie, go ahead.
Thank you. This is Julie Johnson, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak to our board. Thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts as a CalSTRS member with almost 40 years of experience in K-12 education as a teacher and administrator, as well as a faculty administration in higher education. I have recently experienced the communication and quality of services provided by CalSTRS during my retirement process. Unfortunately, the above has been unsatisfactory and in many instances, downright frustrating. Despite my efforts to ensure a seamless transition to retirement, I encountered continual conflicts due to our organization's communication and customer service. Examples include website issues persisted throughout, requiring me to submit finally a paper application after multiple attempts to do so online with the support of advisors on the phone. Despite written confirmation of direct deposit in December of 2025, it took additional hours on the phone and email to secure finally my first direct deposit on May 1st, 2026. Phone support is inadequate with long waits and unfulfilled callbacks. Sending messages via the CalSTRS online support is delayed by 3 to 5 days or longer. Sometimes I would receive an email that had a message from CalSTRS, but when I went into my CalSTRS message center, nothing was there. In my opinion, this treatment is unacceptable for our educators who have served and paid into STRS for years. They deserve professional and consistent treatment upon retirement. And yes, I am willing to volunteer on any committee or other initiatives to address these concerns and improve service and communication for all of our retiring educators. I am very happy to work with any team that you choose. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comment. We're now going to move to in-person comments. Our speaker is Leonard.
It's gonna make me cry again.
I want to express my appreciation, gratitude, and thanks to board members, officers, and staff here at CalSTRS. I've had the honor of working and advocating for current and future retirees as CTA retirement chairperson, as United Teachers Los Angeles pre-retirement issues chairperson, learning and advocating for over 37,000 members in my local union and over 300,000 in CTA. I've been fortunate to help these stakeholders build a respectful and supportive dialogue for the benefit of all. One-on-one, in small groups, via Zoom or in person, our exchanges have improved retirement readiness, solved issues that have impacted many to retire with respect, dignity, and an ongoing defined benefit pension. Few people can completely understand the challenges and duties you each make for a better tomorrow. And to that I say, thank you so much for your service, your passion, and your commitment to all. As I retire from Los Angeles Unified School District in about 11 days, after 38 years of service, free parking, and a copy of the coffee cake recipe I'm willing to share, I once again want to thank each of you here in person or in streaming that have worked with me. What an honor it has been. To my mentors, Loretta Tottenberger, Dr. Sandy Keaton, Denise Bradford, thank you for your support and friendship. To my CTA and UTLA brothers and sisters, thank you for your trust. To the entire CalSTRS family, my sincere thanks. I will end with a middle school piece of humor for you, Harry. May your life be like a roll of toilet paper, long and useful. Goodbye, tension. Hello, pension. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
I believe our next speaker is Dana.
Wait,
Hang on 1 second, Sam.
Mr. Keeley. There you go.
Oh, it's not turning.
Leonard, I owe you lunch. I owe you lunch, and I'm glad I do. Thank you.
Samantha, we're ready.
Our next speaker, I believe, is Dana. Dana wants to come up? No.
Good.
Would anybody else like to speak?
I'll just say Dana Dillon, CTANH retired president. Leonard, welcome to the party.
It's at Dana's house.
If anybody else would like to speak, please come up. I'm not sure. I know there's people standing in the back.
Other duties as assigned. Kevin Welch, former CTA, retired chair. Leonard, although I'm not retiring, I'll still be here in some form. We all followed a long line of previous people besides Denise, Loretta, Dr. Sandy. Our work is something that we take very seriously for the roughly 1 million members that are part of this organization. And Leonard has fulfilled his duty with humor, sometimes middle school humor, has done so in a way that's been very professional and has helped countless people throughout the years. So thank you again, Leonard. Thank you as well, CalSTRS.
Thanks, Kevin.
I believe that may be it for public comment for item 10.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 11, our board staff AI technology working group.
Okay, thank you, Madam
Amy's
Chair.
going to come up.
Amy's going to come up and co-present or add context if necessary. We're presenting this item to the board today as an information item. At this stage, we're bringing forward a suggested approach and overall direction rather than specific policy changes. Our goal today is to receive the board's feedback on that direction and to confirm that we are aligned before moving forward. I'll start with a brief overview to lay out the foundation for the discussion. In October, we convened the board staff working group on technology governance. The goal was to clarify the board's role in overseeing technology with a particular focus on artificial intelligence. Since then, the group has engaged with global public pension peers, academic experts, and external advisors. These discussions helped us understand how other organizations approach AI governance and where we stand relative to our peers. As a backdrop, this work is happening in a broader context where most organizations are still working to get their arms around what AI governance means at the board level. That is true across industries and among our public pension peers as well. In fact, our research identified only a very small number of public pension organizations that were ahead of where CalSTRS is today in this regard. You may recall that the board received education sessions in January and March from some of the academic experts the working group engaged with. A few key findings emerged from this work. First, AI governance is most effective when it is integrated into existing governance frameworks instead of treated as a separate function. Second, the board already oversees many of the areas where AI introduces material implications. The opportunity is not to take on new types of board-level work, but to clarify how AI considerations can be embedded into existing responsibilities. And third, CalSTRS starts from a position of strength. The board has a strong foundation and a global reputation for good governance. So the opportunity here is not to expand the scope of the board's role, but to clarify roles and responsibilities and to ensure that AI considerations are thoughtfully embedded into existing governance practices. Based on this work, the working group is recommending the following direction for the board. The board should incorporate AI oversight into existing board and committee structures. The board should direct me, as CEO, to integrate board-level AI governance to existing practices, including your reporting and board materials. 2 trustees should be designated to work with me to support this initial integration and to help ensure clear information flow to the board. And the board should authorize the targeted use of external expertise to support the board as the AI landscape continues to evolve. To keep this integration work moving forward, the working group also identified 2 initial actions for the board. First is the development of a board-level AI governance principles. These principles will clarify expectations of how AI should be used and provide boundaries for decision-making without becoming operational or prescriptive. The second action is to develop an AI-related risk framework. This framework would use a risk and materiality-based approach to clarify when board involvement, enhanced oversight, or reliance on staff is appropriate, building on our existing risk management practices. Both actions are intended to build on existing structures, not to create new ones. To support discipline and consistency in executing the board's responsibility, the working group is also recommending several enabling actions. First, AI topics should be intentionally integrated into board education and onboarding. Second, staff will provide the board with periodic high-level overviews of how AI is being used across the organization, along with an assessment of readiness. And third, the board should engage external experts who can provide perspective and education as issues evolve. Collectively, these steps are designed to strengthen the board's understanding of AI while keeping governance focused and practical. In terms of immediate next steps, we have engaged Dr. Param Singh from Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business, who you heard from at the March meeting. He will support the development of board-level AI governance principles. Dr. Singh is working alongside your board governance consultant, Mosaic Governance Advisors, to facilitate the development of these principles. Tomorrow, the board will receive a short survey from Mosaic to gather your initial input and perspectives. The results of that survey will inform a facilitated discussion at the July board offsite. The focus will be developing a clear shared set of board-level principles to guide AI oversight going forward. I'd like to thank the members of the working group for your leadership and thoughtful participation throughout the process, and for Mosaic for your advice and support. Denise and Harry, Michael Gunning as an alternate who participated and provided guidance and suggestions, and Karen, who filled in on a number of different occasions when we were moving very quickly, gathering information and developing meetings, sometimes very quickly. So I appreciate all the flexibility and adaptability you all showed at the support. I'd also like to thank our public pension peers, as well as the advisors and experts who engaged, for sharing your insights and expertise. We've covered a great deal of ground in a relatively short period of time, and I feel good about the direction we've collectively reached. And I appreciate the board's continued focus on excellence in governance and the proactive way you approach your role and responsibilities with that lens. I look forward to supporting you as we move into the next phase of this work. And I'd like to invite Denise and Harry or Karen or Michael to provide any comments or what your thoughts were going through the process, if you would like. You don't have to if you have nothing to comment on. And of course, I'm happy to take questions from the board, and Amy and Natasha are here also to provide support and answer questions on a lot of the work that we did. So thank you. I'd open it up to the board.
Can I put you at the bottom? Okay. It's not going to. Wants to speak? No, he is waiting. but it's not clicking over. Can you guys help me? There you go, Karen.
I'm in. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. One of the things that I was looking at is just, it's on page 6 of the recommendations about governance integration. It says the board should direct the CEO. We're going to add or designee in that language, aren't we? Or is that just automatic? Will that be automatic?
To recommend direction to me or the, I'm not sure.
I don't know, wherever it need, it just kind of red flagged me to just say that we can't just do the CEO, but can we add or designee in that language for your recommendation?
We could, I think that I have the ability to designate or delegate as
Okay,
needed
okay.
in the overall in the overall existing governance structure that we have in place already.
I just wanted to make sure that that was included and that was
Yeah.
understood by the members.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Mr. Gunning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick shout out to the group, Cassandra, to your leadership, and of course, Amy, to you. I went to Stanford and heard all those professors talk about that, and it just set the light off. And I'm tickled at how fast from October to now with this report here, and just excited about the ongoing education for the board members as well. So just kudos to the team, and just really tickled about how excellent that process was. Thank you.
I too just wanted to second what Mr. Gunning said. I cannot believe it, the lightning pace that we were able to get through all of this, right? AI speed, there you go. Yeah, it was really great, and we really listened to the world's experts on this, so I feel pretty comfortable that we're headed in a great direction. We have a couple other questions. Mr. Keeley, were you going to comment on this, or did you have a question? Okay, then we'll go to you next. Has a question.
I want to thank the committee. I want to thank the staff, our consultants and advisors. The quality of the education that we received and that we participated in over the last year was incredible. The content, the quality, the insights as to how we as a board should be thinking about AI technology. I think the challenge for us is now one of the challenges is to, and I think I support the recommendations. I think they're very thoughtful, they're directive, and I'm pleased to see that we'll be engaging with the professor from, is he from Penn?
Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon. I think one of our challenges as a group now is for all of us on the dais, to have a common understanding of what role the board should play in oversight, policy, risk managing risk, who's responsible. We don't have to become AI experts. We certainly don't want to outsource this all to somebody else, and we still are the ones that are held responsible. So how do we bring our own education up to the right level? What will this mean for CalSTRS? So many questions, very few answers yet. But I want to thank the group and encourage us to make sure that everyone on the board gets brought up to appropriate education, and we create the time and space that's necessary for that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Horace.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, let me preface this by saying I sort of entered this year as a cynic, a little bit about how we're going to use AI and what it all means. And I think in particular after reading the report, I'm convinced it's the way we have to go. But I also was the beneficiary of a session that I attended at NCPERS trustee training. It was probably the most enlightening presentation on how the board can use AI. And it was about an hour and 15 minutes, and just step by step, I sort of came to be a convert in terms of how this might be done. I went up and told the instructor, it was Darren Dang, who's the Chief Technology Officer at OSERS, which is the Orange County Employment Retirement System. He indicated to me, and it was, just to be clear, It was on the specific use of AI by trustees, by board members. And so I was particularly taken with that. And so I went up and talked to him afterward, and he expressed delight if we would be interested in possibly hosting him to do an hour session. You can include staff, but it's primarily focused on board use of AI. And so I pitched a couple of my colleagues on that idea. They seem open to it. So I hope I can work with staff to schedule him maybe in July, if not then, maybe later. But again, I was struck with just how we can become better stewards by using AI. So with that, I'll stop there and say again, congratulations, excellent report. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I do not see any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there,
We have a public comment on this item.
okay.
If we could get a 3-minute timer, please. Our commenter is Dawn.
Good morning, Don Stauffer, CTA, NA retired. AI is a big topic. And so one thing that I would appreciate clarification on is, so when we're talking about AI in reference to CalSTRS, what are you actually referring to? Are you talking about AI as a potential investment for our portfolio? Are you talking about AI as a tool for management, for staff, for the board? Or are you talking about AI as something that may be integrated within CalSTRS computer and software systems? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. That is all the public comments for this item.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amy and Natasha. Okay, that brings us to item number 12, the board work plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only things that I wanted to highlight is the Benefit Connect updates and the work that we are engaging in to stabilize that system is not listed distinctly on the work plan, but it will be continuing to be part of my CEO report. If there's something more significant or bigger, we will separate it out as a separate item. So that's going to continue moving forward, as well as the developing AI governance principles we have set in July. AI education and the incorporation of AI discussion is going to be embedded in a lot of the work in committees independently, but as topics come up, we will add those as necessary. So they might not be specifically illustrated here, but it is something that will be continuing as we discuss the topic moving forward. And then lastly, we have the notice of board elections coming in September. So that will be something that the board will be working on. So that was the only thing that I had to highlight. It's a living document. We will continue to work through it, and then it'll be coming to the board for approval in July.
Okay. It's still not working.
Okay, I'm on. I'm confused. We're on 11? Yes. Or 12?
12.
We're on 12, right? Okay. So it's the work plan. So I guess I'm confused, as always. The benefits and services is on here.
We do not have, the board last year decided to take on the benefits and services content
Okay,
as a
then
full
I missed
board.
that. I must have missed
Yeah, and
that.
so we don't have a separate benefits and services committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So if we have topics that are associated with benefits and services, it's going to be listed in the benefits and
Okay,
services
okay.
column, row.
Good, my
Yeah.
mistake, sorry about that. And then also, I was noticing on board governance that it's scheduled to meet in September and in May, but there's nothing in those in-between months. Because of the things that we're doing specifically in AI, do we need more meetings for board governance during that time? Or are we just gonna go from September to May and then that's it?
For the board governance committee? Mm-hmm. Do you have the board governance committee work plan? I don't have the board governance committee work plan that I.
Well, it's on the map. It's on this grid. Am I looking at it wrong?
On this is the board's work plan that just covers the topic of governance. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
It's the general.
Yeah, but it's not the board governance. committee. This is just the TRB.
Okay, then I read this all wrong, so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in between, just a clarification, and I understand the confusion. When we, in preparation for the July meeting to adopt the board work plans, if we have a committee that is meeting beforehand, we will, or the board or the investment committee, for instance, we will go over it with you. But in between time, if there's not a meeting in between time, we're working, the staff is working with those committee chairs to develop the content of those committee work plans, which will be brought forward in July. And so all of the work plans will be, they will be all listed together to discuss for the entire board meeting.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Does that clarify? Okay. Yeah, no worries.
Okay, Mr. Henning.
Just real briefly, and I don't think it needs to be noted here, but I think that the board and Madam CEO, you should just make sure we're taking note of it moving forward, is that come January, we're likely to lose 3 members of the board. The governor, of course, will change, the treasurer will change, and the superintendent of education will change. I don't know if there are other board members that may change. I know that there will be an election, but just want to make sure that's quite a bit of new members for this board. And want to make sure that we're taking some time with new members, as I'm fairly new myself.
Yeah, I really appreciate the comment, Mr. Henning. We are definitely, considering the changeover in the board, and we will be doing extensive onboarding with any new board members that are going to be coming on. And we spend a lot of time with them, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Something that we're talking about and keeping an eye on, because change management.
We're now going to add AI to the
Yeah.
onboarding.
Yeah.
They have a whole new module. Okay, that was item 12. Are there any other questions? Okay, are there any public comments on item 12?
There are no public comments for item 12.
Okay, on to item number 13, our annual board elections. I will turn it back over to Cassandra.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the time where the board accepts nominations for the position of chair and vice chair of the board. And so I open it up, and I'll open it up for those nominations, and then we will select, or we'll do a roll call and open it up for discussion. And if I miss anything, Brian will kick me under the table. So at this point, I'm opening it up for nominations for
I think you
chair.
need to raise your hand.
For the chair of the board, Mr. Gunning.
Thank you. I consider it a privilege and an honor to nominate Denise Bradford as chair of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Gunning, and I would accept a second.
I will welcome, as a former Treasury employee, Mr. Juarez is second on behalf of the state treasurer of the state of California.
Thank you.
Like that? I've been doing this a bit.
Mr. Juarez.
He's smooth.
Yes, I would like to put into nomination for vice chair my good friend Sharon Hendricks. And just as a background, let me say, I first met Sharon over 9 years ago when I first joined this board the first time around. And I think in addition to our fervent love of dogs, I would say she is an articulate advocate for the rights, responsibilities, and role of teachers in the state of California. And on that basis, I would hope that I would get support and a second for the nomination of Sharon Hendricks for vice chair.
Okay, so we're gonna split the vote. So we're gonna take a roll call, a vote on the first nomination,
Okay.
and then we have a nomination for vice chair, and we'll do that second after that. So on the position of chair, we have a recommendation from Michael Gunning, a second from Mr. Henning to elect Madam Chair Denise Bradford to be Madam Chair again. Any other nominations? Okay, with that, we would like to, do we have to take a roll call?
Ms. Peralt,
Aye.
Ms. Gallegos,
Aye.
Mr. Keeley,
Aye.
Mr. Tang,
Aye.
Ms. Yamamoto,
Aye.
Ms. Hendricks,
Yes.
Mr. Gunning,
Aye.
Mr. Henning,
Yes.
Mr. Patterson,
Yes.
Mr. Juarez.
Aye.
And Chairperson Bradford, would you care?
Yes, I'd like to vote for myself.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Yay. Okay, so for the position of vice chair, we have a nomination for Sharon Hendricks. I would open it up for a second. Seconded by Mr. Tang. Any other nominations? With that, we'd like to take a roll call for the vice chair.
Ms. Pearl?
Aye.
Ms. Gallegos?
Aye.
Mr. Keeley?
Aye.
Mr. Tang?
Aye.
Ms. Yamamoto?
Aye.
Ms. Hendricks?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, okay, Mr. Gunning? Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Henning?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Juarez?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. And so between this meeting and the July offsite meeting, the chair and vice chair will be taking requests or suggestions or recommendations from other board members on collectively putting together the leadership of the committees following, which will be adopted at the July meeting. And with that, that's that item is complete.
Thank
Okay.
you to the board. Thank you for your confidence in us.
Mr. Keeley.
I want to thank Karen Yamamoto for doing an extraordinary job as vice chair. Our chair, Denise Bradford, and her extraordinary advocacy and laser focus on the retirees of our system, as well as all that she does to make sure that we recognize and support milestones for individuals in the organization. We're very fortunate to have you have served as our vice chair for the last few years. Thank you very much, Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, are there any public comments on item 13?
There are no public comments for item 13.
Perfect, okay. Item 14, state and federal legislation. Welcome, Jocelyn.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jocelyn Martinez-Wade, Director of Governmental Relations. I can go ahead and jump in. I have two bills before you today for consideration of positions, and so I will start at the top with AB 1619. And this is a bill that raises the per diem rate for members of different retirement boards. And for the Teachers Retirement Board, it would be from $100 to $320 for those appointed by the governor who are not also active members of the system. And this would, if all 5 of those positions were held by people that are not members of the system, would be about $15,400 per year in additional costs, or in total costs, I'm sorry. And the recommendation from staff is to take a neutral position, as this does not significantly impact the system.
Sorry. Yeah, how do you want to?
Right, yeah, I'm happy to take any questions on this one. I think if there are public comments to a specific bill, that would be helpful, and then a vote on the position.
I thought we were.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
If we're going to be going through these one by one, some of these pieces of legislation have already died. I don't know why we'd be taking a position.
Sure, and I think you're referring to SB 1319, which is the third bill on the list.
That's a good example.
Which was originally there in case that it was still moving, but as you said, it was held on the Senate Appropriations Committee suspense file. So once we got to that bill, I was going to let you know the disposition of the bill and say that I'm not asking for the board to take a position on that bill today.
Okay, so to be clear, we're only asking for positions on the first 2 pieces of legislation.
Correct.
Okay, so are there any questions on AB 1619 or AB 2417?
And then I can present AB 2417 as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's have her present
Yes,
that.
please. I
Okay.
jumped ahead because you said 2 bills. Go ahead.
Sure. With AB 2417, I do want to point out that it has been amended. It was amended May 18th, so there are some differences to what was described in the analysis. The bill still requires Social Security benefits to be provided to temporary or part-time employees at community college districts. What has changed is that it no longer requires the Chancellor's Office to produce materials or provide those. It has CalSTRS and CalPERS developing and posting information on their websites. Of course, we have tons of information on the Defined Benefit Program, the Cash Balance Benefit Program. that we can point to. We do not have information on Social Security benefits as we don't administer those. So we've been letting the sponsor's office know we can, of course, point to additional resources for community college faculty. But with that, again, no significant impacts to the system. So the staff recommendation is to take a neutral position on this bill.
Okay, we have questions. Chris.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And staff may have intended to bring this up, but a bill that we had previously supported, AB 65, as I now understand it, has been folded into the governor's May revised proposal. That would provide up to 14 weeks of paid pregnancy leave, and I think we're very excited by that, and I'm sure that our support position helped the governor come to grips with it and put it into the budget. So thank you for that.
Yes, I was going to follow up with that after the three bills that were top.
Okay.
Jumping ahead, I appreciate it.
We have one more question.
Thanks,
ahead,
Joycelyn.
Sharon.
I just had a question about 2417. Partly because it's written here as retirement for part-time community college faculty, and I guess not to split hairs, but I've been trying in the world I'm living in with faculty, especially adjuncts. Do we refer to Social Security as a retirement plan?
Generically, we do.
Generically? Okay.
Yes.
It always feels a little, sticks in my craw a little bit, because it doesn't feel like it's really truly a retirement plan. Anyway, we won't belabor that. And so I just want to make sure I'm understanding that. So basically, the legislation requires community college districts, every community college district, which there are like 72, I think, or 73 with the online. Every district has to offer Social Security as an option for adjunct faculty. Is that right? Is that the gist of it?
That's the gist of that substantive piece of it, yes.
Yeah, well, and there's lots of questions I have about that, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
And just to add more, so of course, community college districts are required to provide the defined benefit program as an option, and they can choose to provide the cash balance benefit program. And right now, 22 community college districts offer the cash balance benefit program. And I don't have a count on which ones do and don't offer Social Security. It is up to the local bargaining process.
But we don't have visibility.
No, we don't have visibility of that. There are some that do and some that don't. Don't know the breakdown.
Okay, I do not see any other questions, so we need a motion for neutral on the first two. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you should take them separately in a roll call once you get to that point.
Okey doke.
Please.
I need a motion for AB 1619 then.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded for a neutral position on AB 1619.
Ms. Prout?
Abstain.
Ms. Gallegos?
Aye.
Mr. Tang?
Aye.
Ms. Yamamoto?
Aye.
Ms. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Gunning?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Juarez?
Aye.
Mr. Keeley?
Yes.
Chairperson Bradford, would you care to
Yes.
vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, then we need a motion for AB 2417.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded.
Ms. Prout?
Abstain.
Ms. Gallegos?
Aye.
Mr. Keeley?
Aye.
Mr. Tang?
Aye.
Ms. Yamamoto?
Aye.
Ms. Hendricks?
Yes.
Mr. Gunning?
Aye.
Mr. Henning?
Abstain.
Mr. Patterson?
Abstain.
Mr. Juarez?
Aye.
Chairperson Bradford, would you care to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, now on to attachment 3.
So I was able to give the update on SB 1319, so I was happy to answer any questions, but I'm not asking for a position today as the bill got held after the packet was done. Weren't able to pull it.
Okay, are there any questions about that? I see no questions.
And then other updates, thank you, Mr. Juarez, on the AB 65 update. I also wanted to let people know that we're monitoring AB 2519. Assemblymember McKinner is working on the definition of position subject to membership. That was in AB 1997, how charter school employees are addressed under that. And AB 2780, our housekeeping bill, is moving forward, so it's in the Senate, it's second house, and referred to the policy committee. And I also want to provide a couple regulations updates while I'm here, and let you know that the credible compensation simplification regulations were approved by the Office of Administrative Law. So that is a fabulous accomplishment, and they'll be ready to go on July 1st, 2027, when the bill becomes effective. And then we have been working on the administrative remedy regulations as well. And the Office of Administrative Law found a couple of places in those regs they felt could benefit from additional clarification. So we want to work on that language, which I don't think it's anything very substantive, but they were suggesting an additional 15-day comment period, which with the board schedule and how we interact with the board on regulations and the deadline of getting the package done by July 11th just wasn't going to work out. So we withdrew the regulations, we'll work on the language, vet it, and bring that package back to you in September to restart the process. Wanted to let you know that and get you set up for when you see that in a few months. Happy to answer any questions on any of that.
Okay, we have a couple. Mr. Henning.
And I may have got lost in the conversation, but both of the bills that we just took action on, they're still alive and moved on to the second house?
Correct. Yes, so they're in Rules Committee, Senate Rules Committee waiting for assignment to committee. Policy.
They've already moved. Thank you.
Further questions? No, well, he's popping in and out here. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Joycelyn, were you going to reference the pregnancy bill?
As Mr. Juarez brought up, the AB 65 is in the second house, but the proposal has been incorporated into the governor's May revision. So it's being considered currently by the budget committees. The budget, as I understand it, provides for a discretionary COLA to local educational agencies in addition to their usual COLA. And so that's what the governor is pointing to pay for the up to 14 weeks.
So it officially has not crossed the line yet?
Correct. There were Senate Budget Subcommittee hearings today. They put their agenda out. They had an approved recommendation, at least on the Senate side.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now I really see no further questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on item 14?
There are no public comments for item 14.
Okay, then on to the highlight of our day. Item 15, actuarial valuations. I've learned to love this.
Good morning. As Nick and Scott join me here, I wanted to go quickly so I can still say good morning to all of you, because I'm looking at the time above. Welcome. Before we start, I'm David Lamoureux, your Chief Actuary. Before we start, I wanted to acknowledge two individuals who are in the audience today. I'll ask the first person to stand. Our newest member of the actuarial team at CalPERS, his name is Paul Cheetah. He's sorry. You will see why I said those words. I apologize. The newest members at CalSTRS in our actuarial team, Paul Cheetah. Paul, if you can stand. Paul joins. Thank you. You will likely see him with me in the future presenting. Paul is a senior actuary who was working at CalPERS until a week ago. And while at CalPERS, Paul was the actuary responsible for the actual work for the school employees covered by CalPERS. So now he gets to do the work for the teachers. So welcome, Paul. And the other person I wanted to acknowledge, we have in the audience our newly retired actuary, Rick Reed, who...
Looking very
I know. Only an actuary would come to watch other actuaries talk about actuarial valuation while in the retirement.
Nerd on top of nerd on top.
Yes. With this, before I turn it over to Nick and Scott, who have done, and their team have done all of the actual work for this, I just want, if you remember over the last few years, since our funding plan has passed, we've been telling you over and over, like some of the key risks that we monitor that impact our funding directly. They all basically payroll and how many teachers we have in the system. What I wanted, and then also investment performance. So first, what I want to show you here is the growth in number of teachers. Again, as of June 3rd of 25, which is a valuation that's in front of you, we now have the highest number of teachers actively working we've ever had, 471,000 active teachers. This is all helping for the funding plan. It's going to flow later through some of the results that Nick and Scott will present to you. Again, another positive year with more teacher in the system. Investment-wise, same thing. Scott alluded to this yesterday. In the last 10 years, we've earned on average 8.1%, greatly exceeding our 7% assumption. Last year was about 8.5%. Again, beating our assumption, and all of that is reflected in the results that Nick and Scott will show you. But what I want to remind you on this chart, even though we did beat our 7% assumption on average the last 10 years, we've highlighted for you in red the years where we earned less than 7. And you see 5 above, 5 below. So this is what you would normally expect for the future. Some years will be below, some years will be above. The goal long-term is to beat our 7%. But just a good thing to remember that we will have those years again. They always come. But as long as we earn more than 7 over time, we will meet our funding goals. With this, I will turn it over to Nick and Scott so they can go over some of the key results for the valuation.
Good afternoon, board members. As David just showed you on the last slide showing the investment returns, if you looked at the last 3 years, which the way the actual valuation works, and we smooth the investment returns, those last 3 years are the most critical, and they slightly beat our 7% assumption. Therefore, we have positive results for you to present today. This shows the funded status of historical over the last 13 years since the start of the funding plan. As you can see, we're at a funded ratio of 79.3%. That means the assets of about $314 billion are 79.3% of the actual obligation, which is the value of the benefits accrued. And as I said, the positive investment return, we got a nice little uptick this year, and you can see we've had that for the last 8 years. We just had gradual upticks every year, and that's 2 things. One, slightly better investment performance, but also all the contributions that have been received under the funding plan that help that funded status to move us towards 100% has also been a big factor. So that is kind of one of the key results, and I will move to the next slide. This just shows both the historical funded status and the projected funded status in the gray line there, and that compares to what was projected in the original funding plan starting back in 2013, shown by the red dashed line. And you can see as of about 2021, we moved significantly ahead of those original projections. And if you look back on that funded, the investment return, you remember 2021 was a great investment return of about 27%. That really bumped us up and has kept us up above where we're at. And the only other note I'd make is you'll note that the gray and red actually move a little bit closer together as we go off in the future, and that's because under the original funding projection plans, where obviously we have a set contribution schedule. Under the gray one, and we're going to talk about more about this later, we actually have some reduced contributions due to the better funded status, but we'll touch on that later. As I said, the assets are about $314 billion, and the actual obligation is about $396 billion. So that shortfall we refer to as the unfunded actual obligation, which is $82 billion. As those of you familiar with the funding plan, you know that we allocate the funding into the employer share and the state share, and that's shown here. The state is funding the unfunded actual obligation, and their piece has decreased significantly this year from about $10 billion to about $4 billion is left for the state. And the employer share has stayed steady at a little over 78 billion. And one thing David's talked about, particularly with the risk analysis, and we have talked about you in the past, is that the investment return, for better or worse, is going to affect the state a lot more than it's going to affect the employer. So since we had good news, that's good news for the state primarily. And I did want to just mention that there is a third piece that is not responsible, that is not the state's share or the employer share for funding, is the unallocated. And you can see that little green bar there, that's negative 0.4 billion. So that's actually a negative unfunded is actually a small surplus, and that's where we want it to be. So moving to the next slide. So the two main purposes of the valuation are to assess the funding status and then to assess what contributions are needed. And are the contributions sufficient? And we ask the question, are contribution rate increases needed on this slide? You can see the state and the employers. The answer is no for fiscal year 2026, 2027. The one thing I would definitely point out is the biggest change, as you can see, is the year that their share is projected to be eliminated for the state is now 2026, which means the next valuation of June 30, 2026. So we would be talking to you about 2027, and that would affect the next fiscal years, not the upcoming fiscal year's contribution rate, if possible. Now, there's a lot of variables in there, primarily investment return between now and the end of the year. But as of right now, if all assumptions are, we're pegging it at 2026. And I want to turn it over to David to talk a little bit more about the state contribution.
And just going back to this, I want you to, we should view this as quite an accomplishment, because we're looking at the state paying off their share potentially 20 years ahead of schedule. It's quite an accomplishment. And even for the employers right now, we're still 3 years ahead of schedule, 43 instead of 46. So we should all be very proud of how how it's worked out so far. But what I wanted to highlight, so again, a lot of the rules of our funding plan are set in statute, and there is an interesting, and we've talked to you about this in the past. So the way the law is written, so what we have here, I wanted to show you, you've got 4 fiscal years, and this is the state contribution rate. And I just want to remind you, you've got 3 colors. We have 2 rates that are set in statute for the state. There's a contribution to the defined benefit program of 2.017%. That one is set in statute. It's paid every year regardless. Then there is a 2.5% to our inflation protection program that we'll talk about more later, 2.5%. That's for SBMA. And the other, the gray, the 6.311, that's the rate that you approve. The state supplemental contribution rate, that's the one you have the authority to set. The way the law is written right now, it says that when we perform an actual valuation, if it's determined that the state has eliminated its share, which right now it most likely will be the case next year when we come to you, the law says the supplemental rate goes immediately to 0. So if it works out the way we see it right now, again, it's all subject to us earning at least 7% this year, and we have to do the valuation work. But quite likely for 27, 28, the state contribution rate, that 6.311, will be eliminated. So that's the way it's looked right now. Saving the state, reducing their contribution requirement for close to $2.8 billion. So that's next year. But what we want to highlight, Nick mentioned it, investment risk is still one of the biggest risks we face in our goal of reaching full funding. And if we were to go through a year where we earn less than 7%, the responsibility to make up that shortfall, if you want, will fall on the state mostly. Again, rules of the funding plan. And we've got a little slide here just to help you see what we mean by this. So this is just, what if we were to earn less than 7 next fiscal year? What if the return were to be 5? So 5 is not that much lower than 7. We're missing our target by 2%. What you can see is this would require us to raise the state contribution rate by 3%. Now that rate will drop to 0, so it would take us 6 years to get to that point, because we can only raise it by 0.5%, if you remember those limits. And you can see 2.5%, we would need to raise it by 6%, which would take us 12 years. And at 0%, we would need to raise it by 9%. Again, the point we want to make here It's a great achievement. We're ahead of schedule, but it doesn't mean that the state supplemental rate will remain at zero through the end of the funding plan. If we go through a period of lower than expected return, we might be in a position where we have to recommend to you that we start raising that rate again. But right now, it's all good news, but we'll monitor the investment return. So with this, this is what we have in front of you. We have a recommendation to keep contribution rates at existing level for the employers and the state. So that means adopting the two supplemental rate you see there. That would keep the state employer rate at the state at 10.828 and the employers at 19.1. And the third rate you have to adopt each year. This is linked to the Public Employee Pension Reform Act. We need you to adopt the normal cost for the 2 at 62 members each year. In most years, when you adopt this rate, it has no impact. Like this year, it is not going to impact the 2% at 62 member rate, but that's why you have to adopt it. So again, by adopting these three rates, all contribution rates will remain the same for fiscal year 26-27. And with this, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Mr. Juarez.
Yeah, David, thank you for the presentation, and to Nick, you guys do an excellent job. A lot of paperwork, but excellent job. I want to ask, going back to the state supplemental. So you mentioned if we have a bad year, if you want to cast it that way, that we'll have to go and raise the state supplemental rate to make up for it. So let's say it's only 1 year, and then we subsequently have a couple of pretty good years. Does that affect it all? Okay, so that we could go back, the state might get out for a while again because of those good years.
Yeah, which is why we do annual assessment. And as Nick mentioned, the whole purpose of the valuation is to determine whether or not the contribution rates are sufficient or not. So it's quite possible if we have a year where we earn, let's say, 3%, often, as you've seen on the chart I showed you, a bad year is often, or a year below 7% is often followed by a year above 7%. So
will be looked at every year based on where we're at relative to achieving full funding.
Exactly, which is the beauty of our funding plan, because this is what you need to make sure we remain on schedule to reach full funding. You want to have the ability to react to changing conditions. So that's, which is what we lacked before the funding plan.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, Ms. Guy.
So I just want to go to the flip side of that and understand it. So if we have a good year, then the state contribution rate goes away.
Correct.
It will come back. There's no risk to us. And I missed what you were saying about the 0.5% increase and how that.
So as per the funding plan, the rules set in statute, if we see that there is a need to collect additional money from the state in order to, to meet our goal of reaching full funding, the law says that we can only increase the state contribution rate by increments of 0.5%. So even if we needed to, if we did the calculation, we do the valuations and we find out, we need to collect 2% more from the state, in year one, we can only ask for an increase of 0.5%.
So we're sort of penalized for doing better?
No, in this, it's not penalized. It's the way that the funding plan was built. And again, there are pros and cons to have limit on increases. One of the positives is
because you never know the next year what you might need. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. And then just one point of clarification. The 79.3% funding rate, is that as of June, December?
30th of 25. It's June 30th of 25.
June 30, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Henning.
Mr. Limmer, I was trying to wrap my head around how the amount of teachers increasing, or I shouldn't just say teachers increasing, but people that pay into CalSTRS, how that's affecting these numbers, and at what percent do you see that? It seems like you're projecting a growth pattern there.
Good question. So I'll answer your first one. So because our contribution rates, we collect contribution as a percentage of payroll. When we see more teacher and a higher overall payroll, without changing our contribution rates, we now collect more money toward reducing our unfunded liability. So that's why it's been positive. That's why it's always been a risk to us. We've been worried about potentially seeing a decrease, because as you're all probably fully aware, the projections done by Department of Finance when it comes to K through 12, the number of students in California, we're still projecting to see a close to a 15 to 20% decline in the number of students in California the next 20 years. So what we don't know is how it will translate in terms of how many teachers. Now, we've already built into the funding, and this was an assumption that the board approved as part of the last review of the assumptions. We've built into the funding of the system a 5% decline over time in the number of teachers. So we've built that into the funding of the system. Now we don't know, is it going to be more or less? Again, it's hard to tell. We've seen a drop of almost close to 1 million students the last few years, but we've seen an increase in the number of teachers. Again, you've had the TK that was introduced. Now you have many schools have more teachers because now you've got pre-kindergarten programs. So that's helped greatly. But that's what we're monitoring. So
and so that gets to sort of the heart of my question is if what you're seeing is, well, we are decreasing the amount of students, but we are increasing the amount of payees into the system. I think you'd probably agree that most of it's because of regulation. There's a new financial requirement for high school students. There's lots of other things going on. That we've actually seen an increase in the amount of teachers, the amount of people paying into our system. Why aren't our actuarial numbers shifting to reflect that? I know that you're trying to be conservative to protect the fund because of the decrease of students, but what you're actually seeing, and now you at least have, I don't know how many years of seeing it, an increase in the amount of payees. Why haven't we adjusted our actuarial numbers? Or have you and I'm just missing it?
we have, I think the one adjustment, even though we've seen increases, we are concerned about the upcoming continued decline number of students. So what we've done and what we have reflected in the actual work is an anticipation that over time, the growth in the number of teachers is going to stop increasing and start potentially going down. So that's what we have reflected in the funding.
But the
so
numbers
even
aren't
though
showing you that, are they?
we agree with you that for the last 5 years we have seen a growth. But I think for us looking 20 plus years down the road, I think we have a hard time to, if you're going to lose 15 to 20% of the students, over time, we believe it's going to
increase in policy.
Correct.
Correct. That's what
which is why we decided to take, and again, we decided to take a conservative approach in our assumption. We said, let's just build roughly a 5% decline over the next 20 years. And which is why we do full review of the assumptions on a periodic basis. Every 4 years we do this. The next one is scheduled to start next year. We're probably going to present the results to you in early 2028. But this is something we monitor for you. I think, Nick, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say that obviously a lot of the growth recently has been, as you said, policy changes, and we don't necessarily anticipate that going forward, but we do have that declining projection from the Department of Finance on students. So as actuaries, I don't even know if we're being conservative, but we're trying to be realistic and definitely don't want to push us the wrong way to be over optimistic.
So I'm kind of just on the same topic, because when I read that, I thought it was impossible that we increase teachers when I see that there's 2,000 layoffs in California going on right now. But I think that the key thing was TK as I'm thinking about it, because when you have one teacher for 10 students in there, it's gone up.
Different.
But if student numbers are going down, we've probably seen kind of the height of that hiring in my mind. Am I looking at this the right way?
No.
No?
No, you are looking at it the right way. We agree with you. And again, we'll be monitoring this. We've already started to see a little bit this year. We haven't seen the counts, but we monitor on a monthly basis how much contributions we collect and the size of the payroll. And we're noticing it's increasing. It's coming a little bit lower than we might start to see. If you're mentioning, you've heard of layoffs this year, we'll know more in the fall, but we're already starting to see that the increases are not as high as they've been, at least from a payroll perspective.
Increases in salary.
Yes, correct. So right now, we don't know the counts. The only thing we see that we monitor is the money coming in. So we can see that the contributions we're getting this year are higher than last year, but they're not increasing as fast as they did in the past, which might indicate to us it's quite likely we might have less teachers actively working when we look at it in the fall.
So do you actually have visibility to the number of teachers versus how much is wage increase?
We see everything, yes.
Should have known they.
That sounds very godlike.
Okay, okay, thank you. I'm sorry, we still have some questions here. Ken and then Sharon.
So right along that line, the number of teachers that's retiring and the number of teachers that are entering the professions, are they kind of equal each other? Or, I mean, do they, cancel each other out, or is one going faster than the other? Keeping in mind that, we're going to be losing a certain number of students in the next 5 to 10 years. And how does that come into play in terms of, affecting the funding plan?
So for the last few years, what we've seen is the number of new teachers greatly exceeding those leaving. And when we say leaving, you have those who leave for retirement reasons, but you also have many teachers, as you well know, especially in the first 5 years of their career. We have a lot of new teachers who decide to potentially do something else. But for the last few years, that's why we've seen the number of teachers actively working growing, because we've had more people joining than those leaving. I think what we're keeping an eye on, and again, we haven't seen it, is we've been worried on our side is if school districts, like an easy way for a school district, as you probably well know, if you're having declining enrollment, an easy way to reduce your workforce without laying off any teachers is to simply not replace someone who retires. So that's why we're keeping an eye on this. Again, we haven't seen it yet, but we're going to be monitoring this and keeping you informed of what we see. And generally in November, when we present our risk report, our review of funding levels and risk, we generally dedicate an entire section on what we see with respect to K through 12, retirement of teachers, how many teachers are joining. So we can provide you more information on this in the fall, once we have the information for fiscal year 25-26.
And then my follow-up question to that is, because when I came into the profession 30 years ago, the state started implementing class size reduction, and which leads to the hiring of a ton of teachers. Now that number of teachers coming in during that period is about to retire.
Yes.
Taking that into consideration, are you anticipating a massive retirement, and whether those numbers gonna be replaced by new teachers or not, and how does that play into the equations?
So we monitor all of this. About 2-3 years ago, we did a presentation to benefit and services on this. There is a wave of retirement coming our way, especially because of the class size reduction that took place in the late 90s, combined with the growth in the population in California. But what I would suggest is I would propose to you that we spend, if there's some interest from the board, we can certainly spend more time on this in November when we present our review of funding levels and risk report. We can give you some updated information on what we did for benefit and services. I think based on the questions I'm seeing here, I think it would be a great of interest to everyone if we dedicated more time on this in November when we come back to you.
And when we're ready, I'll be ready to move it after all the questions.
Okay.
I was just going to move the staff recommendation that we adopt option 1 on item 15A.
Ken, second. Okay, do we need a roll call on this? The options for option 1?
He's saying they're asking public comment.
Oh, before we do it, sorry. Are there any public comments?
There are no public comments for this item.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
Perfect. We'll move on now we'll do 15B and C kind of together, but we'll stop after 15B, which is the defined benefit supplement program. You can vote on it, and then we'll do the cash balance. If we could have the presentation, perfect, thank you. So with this, I'll pass it over to Nick. Oh, this is the wrong, if we could change the slide deck, please. This is the one for number 18. I want 15B and C.
15B.
Yeah. No. It will come as we wait, just so that, yeah, I will start. So basically, just to remind everyone, defined benefit supplement, the purpose of the valuation is to assess funding levels and to determine if, according with the policy, the board policy, we are in a position to grant additional earnings credit. So with this, I'll pass it to Scott, who will cover the valuation results for the defined benefit supplement program.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll start out with the defined benefit supplement. We'll get to the cash balance program in a minute, cover these both together because there's a lot of similarities. So on this slide, slide 2 here, you can see sort of a snapshot of the funded status at the last valuation, June 30, 2024, and then the updated snapshot at the valuation we're talking about today, so the June 30, 2025 valuation. Funded status improved for the defined benefit supplement program from about 124% funded to nearly 130% funded as of the 2025 valuation date. So in gray here are the assets, red are the actuarial obligations. And so that equates to about a 4.75 billion surplus, assets above the obligations as of the most recent valuation. So a asset of nearly 21 billion and over 16 billion in obligation there for that difference. So that improvement is largely due to the investment return, as David spoke about earlier in the previous section, just for the year to the valuation, definitely above the long-term expected rate of return. So that does mark up the funded status. So then this flows through the board's policy for interest crediting and determination of whether there will be any additional earnings credits, the AEC shown on here in the graph. So this shows the last 10 years from left to right, with the gray bars are the minimum interest rate that's credited sort of initially each year based on 30-year Treasury interest rates. So that's the initial crediting. And then after we do the exercise of what is the funded status of the program, we can come back and say, according to the board's interest crediting policy, is there a favorable enough position relative that does it exceed the thresholds that would allow an AEC to be provided? And that kind of has 2 steps. So there's one threshold that gets that dark red bar, which is the step 1 credit. And then if after that is done, it still exceeds the second threshold, then it's the possibility to have a second step. And so as you can see, in 8 out of the 10 years shown here, there were AEC credits provided. In only 4 of the years did it cross the threshold to get to step 2, but that is where we're at for the 24-25 year. And really what this kind of breaks down to is you can think of it as if the funded status is above 111%, then the first step can be triggered. And if it's above 122%, more or less, after that first step, then you're in the position where you can give a second step on the AEC credit. So the total between those two for the 24-25 year is 4.53%, which again sits on top of that minimum interest credit and brings the total credit for the year up to 9.1%. Any questions on that before we move on?
More elementary, but I want to understand, did the DBS program, did that come about because of the 2016 funding plan? Or is that
No,
been around?
No, so the DBS was created in the early 2000s. So it's been around for 25 years.
Okay. And how is it determined who contributes to it and how much they contribute?
Yeah, very good question. So the defined benefit supplement, the reason it's called defined benefit supplement, it's for the defined benefit members. It's for earnings that generally are not applicable for the defined benefit program. And also in cases where members earn more than 1 year of service. So for example, if you work in the summer it might lead you to have more than 1 year of service credit, the way the service credit rules. Anything that goes above 1 year is not credited to the defined benefit program. Instead, those earnings and the contributions go into the defined benefit supplement, which is why it's called defined benefit supplement. Yeah.
That's about 95% people, I think, or
Yeah.
95% of the DB members are in the DB supplement plan.
Yeah, so out of the 471,000 active I mentioned, we have slightly over 400,000 of those who have money in the defined benefit supplement program. So most members do.
Okay, Ms. Hendrick.
So my question to Steve's, do we have visibility on, why is that? That's okay. Do we have visibility on the demographic breakdown of K through 12 and community college and the percentage?
Yes, we do.
Do
We do.
you have it on your brain right now?
Not right now, but I'm more happy to follow.
I was asking a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah.
I know. You don't have an
No.
encyclopedic.
But again, if there's some interest, if at some point there was some interest to maybe bring more visibility to the board here, if there was some interest to see more information about for both cash balance and defined benefits, because I know for cash balance, it's mostly our community college teachers who participate in it. We could certainly come back at some point to bring some information.
I'm just more interested in,
Okay.
like, it's not complex. I'd love to just know what the stats are, the breakdown, because.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't remember.
I was surprised that most DB members have a DBS account, actually. 'cause-
Yeah.
So I'd love to just know what the breakdown would be
Okay.
at some point. No worries,
Good.
thanks.
And before we go to the recommendation, I just want to highlight, so again, the goal of that program, the reason why we have that black line there, our investment return assumption, like the goal of what we really want to do with the defined benefit supplement is hopefully credit 7% to our members. So we give them less first, and if we do, if we build a surplus and the board policy says, we're going to try to give them an additional earnings credit to bring them back first to the 7 and potentially more. And what I wanted to highlight is how it's worked well over time for the defined benefit supplement program. This is information we now share with our members in some of our publications, but the last 5 years, we've credited on average 9.6%. And you can see we haven't met our 7% for the last 20 years, but the last 10 years we did. So again, these two programs have been very good at, that program has been very good at crediting our member, a significant return on their investment. So with this, the recommendation from you is to adopt the additional earnings credit of 4.53%. And as Scott mentioned, it's going to mean that for 24-25, the members of that program will get a return of 9.14% because they've already received about 4.6% given to them. So.
Okay, thank you. I have Ms. Hendricks in the queue.
Before I move approval, I will just say I hear from a lot of people after we make these decisions because some people have pretty robust DBS accounts, so that credit, they're pleased to hear the funding status of the DBS account. So thank you for that. And I would move staff approval for this item.
It's been moved in second to approve the total return of 9.14% for 24-25. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes.
Is there any public comment? Did we get that?
No, we
No
did not
public
get
comment for
that.
this item.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Okay.
Brian doesn't have a sign.
15C,
Okay, next.
pretty much similar information,
15C.
cash balance.
Yep.
Scott.
Very similar information, different order of magnitude. We're now talking about millions instead of billions for this program, and slightly less well-funded, but still well over 100%. Again, for the same reasons, funded status improved compared to the prior valuation, now at about 119.1%, and a surplus of over 92 million, comparing the assets and obligations of this program. And then similarly, the board interest crediting policy has a similar structure with the minimum interest crediting and the AAC Step 1 and Step 2. Again, showing a 10-year history with what has been provided and the overlay of the black line for kind of the long-term forward-looking expectation, which ideally would long-term get credited through to members. But as David said, sort of done in steps so that it's the minimum interest rate, and then if funded status meets the goals, then additional crediting at that point. And so again here, there have been additional earnings credits in 8 of 10 years. Here, there's been only one that's gotten to the point of providing a step 2, and that's really just because the funded status of this program is a little bit less than the DBS, and so not triggering that kind of sharing above the second threshold. But for 24-25, the interest crediting policy would provide an AEC, step 1, of 2.81% to bring it up to the 7% total crediting.
Thank you, Scott. And then similarly, again, just want to show you again, it's in the agenda, but I'd just like to point out last 5 year again for cash balance, we've been in with the additional earnings credit, we've been able to credit on average 8.1% to our members. And with this, the recommendation again, what's in front of you is to provide an additional earnings credit of 2.81%, which will bring the total return to 7% for the year for our members of the cash balance program.
Thank you, Madam Chair. David, or anybody on the panel, if somebody can give me a very brief understanding, again, similar to the last question, why do we have a cash balance program? Who contributes to it?
Very good question. So to be a member of the defined benefit program, you have to work a certain number of hours, almost like be a full-time teacher. If you are a part-time teacher, which is why I said it applies, I would say most of our members in the cash balance are community college teachers. If you work part-time, you don't work enough hours to be in the defined benefit program, then the employers have the option of offering a cash balance option to the teachers. So this is mostly for our part-time teachers.
Okay, so they don't participate in defined benefit at all?
No, they do not.
Okay.
But if at some point they become a full-time teacher, then they become a member of the defined benefit program.
And their cash balance can't be transferred over to?
It can. So one of the options they have is they can use the cash balance, their account balance, to purchase service in the defined benefit program.
Excellent. That's what I would have hoped. Yep, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, go.
Ready? Okay. Yeah, and thanks for that question, because for our part-time faculty, at least in my experience with community colleges, often some of them don't teach enough to get that 5 years of full-time vesting with the defined benefit. So I've learned and been trained by CalSTRS staff to say it depends. And so it kind of depends on the adjunct, what their age, and kind of honestly like class, enrollment and those kinds of stats. So that's why I think part-time retirement is such a challenging issue, and I'm glad we have the cash balance in place. I would move staff recommendation on this item.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
Perfect. Moving along, if I can have the presentation for item number 16 as I go. So we do the actual work for the SBMA, our Inflation Protection Program, once every 2 years, every even year. And for item 16, what's in front of you, since 2008, 2009, the law has provided the authority to the board to set the purchasing power level protection anywhere between 80 to 85%. You've set it at 85% every year since that time. So the purpose of the work in front of you is to assess the resources of the system to see if we can, at what level we can set the purchasing power. And what I want to remind everyone is for this program, investment performance is not an issue because the law states that the assets are credited at the assumed investment return, which right now is 7%. So the beauty of that program is you don't have to worry about how our assets perform because it's based on our 7%. But what we have to worry about is inflation and also the number of teachers who are actively working because we collect 2.5% of payroll from the state to fund that program. So with this, I'll pass it over to Nick to quickly over the results of their work.
All right, thanks, David. As I'm sure all of you are aware, inflation has been high, and the results for the supplemental benefit maintenance account are very leveraged based off of inflation. That's the purchasing power benefits. Obviously, if you have high inflation, then higher purchasing power benefits, low inflation, lower purchasing power benefits. And as you can see, over the last 5 years, inflation has exceeded every year, particularly in the 2021, 2022. And we can see how that translates here, and the people who are actually receiving the purchasing power benefits, and it's gone up about 2.5 times over the last 4 years, from about 68,000 to 184,000 people who are now receiving benefits at that 85%. So they've lost 15% of their purchasing power compared to the statutory 2% annual increase that DB members receive. And I'd also mention that not only have the members skyrocketed, but the actual benefits being paid are basically tripled over the last 4 years, from about 250 million to over 750 million we're projecting for the current fiscal year. And this shows a comparison of the resources to pay the SBMA, primarily the assets. There's about $29 billion in the account right now, but also future contributions that come from that 2.5% state contribution that David referred to earlier. And also, this is one of this piece of it's somewhat sensitive to the payroll and the number of active teachers that the payroll is received upon. So that one can move, and that helps, as you can see, that definitely helps create the surplus that we see when we compare it to the value of the projected payments, those purchasing power payments. You can see based on benefits already received, 26.2 billion, those benefits are already earned. An additional 2.9 billion is expected to be earned for active members for payment when they're retired. As you can see, we have about over 41 billion in resources compared to about 29 billion in obligations. So we have over a $12 billion projected excess. But once again, a lot of that's tied to future contributions that are expected to be received in the future. One of the things, as we talked about, is that inflation is really the key driver on the benefits side. And as David said, since the assets are more predictable because we know they're earning that 7%. The contributions are a little bit more variance, but really it's on the obligation side, what the payments are, and inflation, as we showed, is a really significant impact on that. What you can see is we've shown under various inflation scenarios, very simplified, assuming 2.75% every year is the green line, 3.25% is the blue line. Under those scenarios, the SBMA continues to grow. If we have much higher inflation, where we have 3.75 and 4.25 in the orange and black lines, then we would be projected to run out of money. I'd note that, as David noted, the purchasing power level right now is at 85%. If we were starting to trend downwards, there is a possibility of reducing the benefits being paid by lowering the purchasing power level, although we're definitely not at that point right now. And lastly, I'd point out that these are obviously simplified scenarios. We run a whole bunch of inflation scenarios, and you can see we should come up with a 67% probability of sufficiency at the 85% purchasing power level. So very good probability of hitting it, but not bulletproof. And lastly, I just point out that in the education code, we have to do a projection of the SBMA account through 2089, and does it run out of money or does it not? As you can see, the SBMA shown in the green one, which is our assumed inflation, keeps growing, therefore is projected to be sufficient at 85%. So our recommendation is, turning it over to David,
to maintain the purchasing power at 85%. So that's the recommendation in front of you, to keep it at 85% for the next 2 years.
Okay. Ms. Hendricks.
Thanks, Nick. And I did have a question about inflation, because in the report, I think at the bottom of, I don't know the page number, but you talked about the last 5 years inflation in California has averaged 4.4%, and we're using the 2.75% assumption. When and how do we look at whether we change that or not? Like, do you come, I seem to recall you come with recommendations, right?
Correct. It's part of the same review of the assumptions I mentioned earlier. So right now, we're scheduled to start the work on this in 27, and we should be coming to you for the meeting in January, February of 28.
Okay,
So we
great.
normally review these every 4 years.
That's what I thought, kind
Yeah.
of with our asset allocation.
Correct.
the
Yeah, it's all
experience
tied to
study.
the asset allocation. We do all that work at the same time.
And by then, we'll have seen probably a little more
Yeah.
trend, because there's a lot of questions right now around
Correct.
inflation.
Exactly.
So that will
But I'll tell you, we use one of the, I would say, we are high when it comes to inflation compared to what other public systems use. You're going to see 2.5% being used more than the 2.75 we use.
Okay,
Even Social Security uses, I believe, 2.4%.
interesting. Thank you. With that, I would move staff approval on this item.
Are there any public comments?
There are no public comments for this item.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to keep purchasing power protection at 85%. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes. That was number 16.
Almost there.
We're on
17
item
will be
17.
quick. So item 17 is tied to item 16. This is the options on the use of the excess resources we just identified for the SBMA program. So the law, there's a requirement in statute that says that if we have identified the program as excess resources, which we just did, the board is required to present options to the legislature for considerations on what to do with those excess resources. One of the options has to be for members who retired before 1999. So the options that are included in the item are the same options we presented to you 2 years ago. So what we are asking is could you simply adopt our recommendation to provide those options to the legislature. Now, if there was a desire by the legislature and our stakeholders to maybe pursue one of those options, we would work with them directly to provide additional information. And if a bill were to be introduced, then at that time, we would come back to you for a position on that bill. That's sort of the process that took place a few years ago with Senate Bill 868. So right now, all we are asking is to you approve us to submit to the legislature the options presented in the item.
Okay, Ms. Hendricks.
I move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved
slowing down.
it's been moved and seconded to present the options discussed in this item to the California legislature as directed by Ed Code. Any public comments?
No public comments for this item.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, item passes.
Finish line is here. If I could get my last slide deck on, please.
Item
So this
18.
is the review of the lump sum debt benefit that we are required by law to do every year. Just as a quick reminder, the board adopted a policy in 2024 to tie the recommendation for an adjustment or not to the funding of the system. It basically says if we are ahead of schedule to reach full funding, we will recommend an increase. So we showed you while we presented the defined benefit program that we are ahead of schedule. So what the policy also says is we look at the inflation in the previous calendar year, which was 3.21%. The policy caps the increases at our assumed inflation of 2.75. If inflation is above, then it goes into a catch-up reserve. So what we want to highlight to you here is since the policy has passed, we now have a catch-up reserve of 1.4%. So if inflation were to be less than 2.75 in the future, we would still be able to recommend an increase of 2.75. So what's in front of you today is an increase of 2.75%, the maximum as per our policy. And again, we're recommending it because this is the same chart you saw earlier, we are ahead of schedule in our funding. So this is what's in front of you, a 2.75% increase, which would result in a $200 increase for our active coverage A member and our retired members, and a $800 increase for our active members under coverage B. And the amounts being recommended are in bold in the middle column. And those would become effective this July 1st, in about 5 weeks from now. And with this, happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Morris?
Yeah, again, just a clarification. So active coverage A and active coverage B.
Who are they?
So it's mostly based on the data hired. So those hired before 1992 are coverage A. Every new employee since are coverage B. At the time when it was introduced, the coverage A members had the option, if they wanted to become coverage B members. And we're down to, help me out, 6,000 members, active members in coverage A, I believe. So, but it's, I would say most of our members right now are under the coverage B.
Thank you.
Ms. Yamamoto.
Thank you. I would like to move the recommendation, and also just to make sure that our members do fill out the proper forms.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to increase the lump sum death benefit by 2.5%, effective July 1st, 2026. Are there any public comments?
No public comment for this item.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I put myself in a queue. But
Did you have a comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold that thought.
no problem.
There you go.
We're figuring out technology. I did want to, since we have people that have been in these board meetings for years and years and know this process, I do want to think that on this item now, we have really clear parameters that are dictated by actuarial science that help us make these decisions, and it's not as perceptually subjective as it has been in the past. And so I really appreciate that, because obviously we care quite a bit about our members and the impact of the lump sum. It's just helpful to have actuarial science help guide our decision making. So thank you for that.
Okay, all those in favor of increasing the lump sum death benefit amount by 2.75%? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. I think we're to the end. Thank you so much. That was a lot of information, and you guys have it down to a science, getting it done quickly. We appreciate it. All right, item number 19 is informational consent agenda. And item number 20 is the action consent agenda. I do not believe I have anything to read. Let's see.
We can just move on.
Yeah, I have nothing to read, so I think we are good.
Did you ask the board if they want to pull anything from consent?
No, I wasn't going to.
Okay.
Do I have to?
It's your turn, kind of, governance-wise.
Questions? Seeing, are there any public comments on item 20?
There are no public comments for item 20.
Okay, seeing no questions, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, item 20 has been passed. Informational items. I do not have any. Are there any draft agenda items for next time? Anything you want to highlight?
The next meeting will be in the Bay Area for our July offsite. We'll be bringing the board and committee work plans for review and final approval. We have some changes to this agenda on the educational items that the board will be hearing. We have some updated presentations that have changed since this draft agenda was put in place a while back. But I also heard that there might be some interest in some early preview of our budget change proposal request going for 27-28, and some discussion on the costs that we're evaluating for a tower refresh for this building. We've been in this building for 17 years, remarkably, and we're looking at where we need to start making some updates relative to technology and the offices and things like that. So there's some interest in getting some visibility that early on. So I'll probably be putting that somewhere in the agenda if that's what you decide to want to bring forward, Madam Chair. But other than that, that was it.
I apologize. Information items, were there any information requests?
I believe Ms. Hendricks would like a demographic breakdown for K through 12 and community college members participating in the cash balance and defined benefit program.
Defined benefit supplement.
Defined supplement program, thank you.
Okay. What time would you like to start board governance?
1:05. 1:35 is great. That's 40.
You think
So
30?
that gives us 40 minutes for lunch.
40 minutes for lunch?
45, 1:45?
1:45? Okay. We will start board governance at 1:45. That concludes the teacher's retirement board portion. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy your lunch.